What's up, Tiger fans? It's Morgan Thomas here with another video. This time we're going to be previewing the Clemson spring game. That's right. The Clemson spring game is just around the corner. Hopefully you got your tickets and you are ready. If you haven't, go ahead and sign up and spend your $10 so you can be a part of the Clemson spring game this year. Hey, before we get into the video, make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you can stay up to date to all of our exclusive Clemson content. That's right. Every single week we put out new content for you to watch and enjoy, and it's all about your favorite team, the Clemson Tigers. All right, guys, I got the three gentlemen here, myself, Houston, and Big Al joining us. We're going to be talking about the Clemson spring game. Dabo Swinney this Friday, I don't know if you guys watched this, but came out and talked a ton about what's going to happen this week. Monday was a controlled scrimmage where they went over specific situations, and he talked about how he felt. But one thing that he mentioned was the running back group and how impressed he was. Obviously, you know, CJ Spiller is the running back coach, so he's going to impart a lot of wisdom there. He is the favorite player for many Clemson fans out there. But what are you excited about with the running game? We'll start with Houston and CJ Spiller being the coach.
Well, you know, I think it's a great opportunity going forward, even on the recruiting trail, to be like, hey, look, I'm going to be your coach, and I was one of the most electric players in college football. You know, I think out of the group itself, it's going to be interesting to see because you've got a diverse cast of characters. Lynn-J Dixon coming back for another year and his skill set, seeing the development of someone like Ches Malusi, who's not necessarily like Travis Etienne with his shiftiness, but has that kind of speed if he gets into the open field. And then you've got the two freshmen with Maffa and Shipley. They both look like studs from the film that I've seen at practice. And then, of course, the name that I keep hearing, at least, is Kobe Pace, and how some people are just saying he's an absolute hammer. Can't wait to see that. To see what he progresses into as a running back, and maybe you might just have a committee full of animals at running back, and that's what I'm looking forward to seeing the most.
Not the 4 horsemen, but maybe the 9 horsemen. Big Al, what do you think about the running back group? Anybody stick out to you?
Look, well, I agree with a lot of what Houston said. I think everybody's excited to see the freshmen, especially in the spring game. They want to see the guys who got there early enrollees, and are going to be a part of this thing. And I think you got to, take a look at Shipley. He was a 5-star guy coming out. A lot of people love what he can do, not only as a running back, but catching the ball out of the backfield type thing as well. So I'm ready to see, is he going to be ready? Is he going to be ready sooner rather than later? Is he going to warrant snaps, early on in the season? A lot of people expect that from him. I love Phil Maffa. I think he's going to be a huge guy at the running back position. He's coming off an injury a while back, so he might not be full speed quite yet, but he's a beast. He's a big guy who can run between the tackles. I think he's going to be very valuable to this team moving forward. I don't know what kind of role he'll play this year necessarily, but I think in the coming years he's going to be hard to handle for sure. But love what I hear from Kobe Pace here, and I'm hearing the same things you guys are hearing for sure. But Kobe Pace has really been on a tear, and people are excited to see what he's got as well. And of course you've got Lynn-J Dixon, who most people presume to kind of be the opening day starter, since he's kind of been waiting in the wings, behind Travis Etienne, ready to rock and roll. We've seen what he can do, and he ran well at the end of last year. So, I think the running back group as a whole, with what I think is going to be an improved offensive line, is going to be could be just as good as last year, maybe even have an easier time running the ball when they don't know that Travis Etienne is back there.
One guy we really haven't touched on yet, Mikey Dukes. Dabo mentioned that he was able to run back a long one in special teams, and he's learning the most from CJ Spiller. I like to hear that because, CJ, how good he was in those special team returns. And a lot of that gives credit to, nobody gives him this much credit, but true fans know Jacoby Ford was a lot of the help too for CJ as well. He was blazing the trail because he was so fast. Nobody could catch him. So CJ just ran behind him and took it to the house plenty of times. So got to give Jacoby Ford some love there too. But obviously CJ Spiller was amazing. So love to see what Mikey Dukes can do, because I think Clemson lacks in that area really since CJ Spiller. Maybe I'll say since CJ Spiller. I'll take that back and say since Sammy Watkins really have been tough to see, somebody who can just break one at any given moment from kickoffs and punt returns. Speaking of Sammy Watkins, you guys mentioned about breaking out in the spring game, seeing what freshmen can do. Sammy did really well in his freshman year in that spring game. So I look forward to see what Shipley and Maffa can do as well. A lot of fans, a lot of our videos on Shipley and Maffa are getting a lot of views. And so I know fans are waiting to see what those two gentlemen can do. We'll see. Obviously, they're freshmen, so they got a lot to learn, but going to be exciting to see. Now, moving on from running back to wide receiver, EJ Williams came on in injury for Justin Ross and Joseph Ngata and Frank Ladson last year. So EJ Williams had to grow up very quickly, and he showed a lot of good talent there and a lot of potential and had some great catches, specifically that amazing catch, that one-handed catch against Notre Dame. To keep the drive going as well. So EJ's still looking good, according to Dabo. Another guy that is super popular on our channel with our previous video we did like 2 years ago on him, a Joe. Dabo says really coming on. Obviously, height and weight is like a disadvantage in literally anything, basketball, football, whatever, you name it. He is definitely a beast and going to be a matchup nightmare if he can get comfortable in that, corner of the end zone, red zone type position. Al, I'll start with you. What do you think about a Joe?
Look, I mean, he was the nightmare coming off the bus when he got here to Clemson, okay? He was just a physical specimen. We all talked about him and what a freak athlete he is. Now, at the same time, we also knew he had a long way to go. He was a very raw prospect. He hadn't been, playing football all that long. He was coming from Canada. He had a lot of stuff going against him, okay, that didn't lead itself to immediate playing time, and he hasn't seen immediate playing time very much anyways. Had a great catch. I think that was nullified or incomplete, maybe by a penalty or something in the Georgia Tech game. So we saw a little flash of what he can do. He can jump. He can, get the jump ball, which is a very big deal. He can high point the ball. He's got tons of ability. He's got to get it right between the ears. He's got to learn the playbook. He's got to understand his responsibilities, and he's just got to refine himself as a receiver in general. But yeah, the sky's the limit for this kid, and I think you'll look for him to really kind of step out of that zone and be one of the guys maybe next season. Hopefully this year he gets more time, is able to, I hope he's the guy this year, as I'm sure Clemson fans do too. As long as, as everybody else, of course, you got Ngata and you got Lads and you got EJ Williams, Justin Ross, all these guys. But it's going to be hard. There's only one football to go around, right? But I think he's got a lot of potential. I think he can get a lot more than just mop up duty this year, maybe, and then kind of be one of those guys next year who really factors in the rotation.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think Joe could be the DK Metcalf to Joseph Ngata's A.J. Brown. You have two freak specimen athletes out there that you can throw the ball to, and they can go get it. And that's not mentioning the two other freakishly tall athletes that you have in the Collins Towers behind them that could turn into freaks like them too. So, this is an abundance of riches at this position. And if a Joe turns into what he could be, this could be one of the, if not the most elite wide receiving core in all of college football.
Yeah, I think that Clemson is going to have a lot of really big targets and really lethal targets, especially if they can all stay healthy or get healthy going into this season. We know that Justin Ross is still working his way to become healthy. I was just looking this up as you guys were talking because, you mentioned about a Joe needing to make sure that he understands the playbook and things like that. When is that kind of too much? Maybe, to me, I'm like, hey, this guy is huge. Okay. Just tell that man to run straight and jump, okay, when the ball gets to you. What kind of playbook? I mean, if you need to get your talent out there, don't make the playbook that complicated. Then I was thinking about playbook being complicated. I was thinking about the Eagles head coach. When the Eagles head coach got his job recently, and he said, we're going to make it easy for the offense to learn, but difficult for the defense to understand. Whatever that means, maybe he's talking about just run deep. That's what I used to tell you, Al. When we do flag football, just run deep. That's what everybody tells you. You're just so much taller than everybody. Just run deep. All right. So we talked about running backs. We talked about wide receivers. Let's show some love to the tight ends. Dabo actually said Galloway and Allen look like NFL level talent. They just got to put it all together on the field. I like Galloway. I like Allen. I would love to see them more utilized, especially later on in the season. It seemed like the tight ends disappear as defenses get more difficult for Clemson. Now, was that play calling? Was that quarterback? Was that offensive line? There's a lot of issues that caused that neglect of the tight end, we'll say, for lack of a better word. But I hope that there is more love for the tight end. Houston, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I think so too. And the name that people will start to get used to hearing too is Jake Brenningstool. I'm thinking I'm pronouncing that name right. Apparently, he's had a great spring too. So you've got 3 legitimate targets plus at tight end in Allen and Galloway and Brenningstool. And so I think it's going to be great. And if you're able to utilize that, that's just another feather in the cap of an endless abundance of wide receiving talent.
Yeah, for sure. Look, I like these guys. I like Brenningstool a lot. I think he's kind of the most natural receiver of the 3. Galloway looks good. I mean, he's the guy with the great length, the good size and all that kind of stuff. I think as far as NFL talent is concerned, Dabo comes out and says that they're both NFL talent, and that may be true. I think they're kind of on the border there. I like both guys. I don't love either of them yet. Okay, I think Galloway needs to work on some things, and of course, I think Davis Allen. I love him when he's blocking because he'll just completely destroy people, which is amazing to see. And you like that. We need to see him be more of a threat as a pass catcher, and it's not necessarily his fault. We just haven't seen enough of it. It could be the playbook, the play calling, whatever it may be. I've been talking about you getting the tight ends more involved for years. I love the Michael Palmers of the world and the Jordan Leggett's and the Brandon Fords, Dwayne Allen. We had a really great tradition at tight ends, and I'd like to see them utilized more. I think they're an incredibly dangerous weapon on the field. It's very difficult to account for them, and we've got some guys that are some matchup nightmares for sure. So I like to see them used a lot more this year.
Speaking of blocking, that's one big, headline for this year going into this season. What will the offensive line do? Will they improve over their abysmal run blocking? Good at pass blocking. Can't knock them there. But run blocking, not good. Not to be desired there for sure. Dabo mentioned that Bockhorst, has been out with some injury issues, COVID issues, I believe, as well. Paul Teo has been stepping in, and Walker Parks is a new starter, says he looks good. The goal for Dabo is to have basically 2 lineups, a 1A and a 1B, 9 to 11 guys that can just go at any time. Do you think that's realistic or maybe still a year away? Al, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think for having 9, I think 9 is a pretty realistic goal. I think 11 is probably something like a year away. I wouldn't say, I wouldn't hesitate to say that necessarily. And we'll see how it goes. People can surprise you. People can, and get better and exceed expectations, and that's fine. I hope we see some of that. But this team, like you said, it was a bad year for run blocking last year. It was not good. It was not even close to good, which really sucked for Clemson because we had Travis Etienne. We had one of the best running back and probably the best running back in the country. And you guys could just key on him. Defenses could key on him. And sometimes I didn't even have to put a ton of extra guys in the box because our offensive line was not run blocking worth anything last year. And I think one of the things Clemson has tried to do, especially they've tried to address in these last few recruiting classes, is to get more beef on the offensive line. They've gone the Wisconsin route. They've gone the Alabama route, the Georgia route, trying to get these mammoths on the offensive line. One of the things Clemson's done in the past is they've recruited a little bit smaller offensive line so that they have, they're a little more nimble. They can, get places quicker, but it's just they're getting beat by these bigger guys and these quicker guys on defensive fronts. So I like the big beef. I like that's what we're doing. I think that's what we're going to, more guys that are, 6'5", 320, that type of guy. And I think we've recruited a lot more of those. I think it's going to help in a big way.
Yeah, I don't really have much to add. I think don't be surprised if there's not like an immediate, there may not be an immediate fix in the spring game. I'm not putting that much pressure on them. If it's sloppy, it's sloppy. It's the spring game. I'm not putting too much stock in it. But I think as time goes on, I think even as early as the opening game of next year, you'll see a much sharper, much meaner, much more athletic offensive line, especially with some of these young guns that are coming in, Chio, Walker Parks, some of these guys where you may not get the 5-star like Jackson Carman, you've got an even amount of talent that we haven't had on our offensive line, on Clemson's offensive line, really ever. And that's continuing, and you see it in Clemson's recruiting in 2021 and 22. I think that's just going to keep on building.
Yeah. So, interesting point here. We've talked a ton about the offense, not something that we've had to do for pretty much the last 3 years. But unfortunately, Clemson's going to have to reload, and we're going to see new faces out there become stars for the Tigers. Let's touch a little bit on defense and wrap it up, fellas. and talk about specifically the linebacking core. Now, Dabo mentioned that Jeremiah Trotter Jr. was the only linebacker that they signed in this previous class. And that is mainly because when they looked at the roster, they saw how much they loved the guys they already had, like Keith McGuire, Kane Patterson, Vonta Bentley, Sergio Allen, Kevin Swint. Both those guys are cross-training for defensive end positions, but can still, sub out to the linebacker position as well. Going to play both, really. It's time to see those guys step up and compete and not just see the same old, same old. But, I do look forward to a guy I've been talking about since he's been recruited, and that is Kane Patterson. But also late in the season, it's good to see number 42, Bentley, out there destroying people as well. We'll start with you, Big Al. What do you think about the linebacking core going into 2021?
Well, look, you got to like what we've got to start out with. Of course, you got Trenton Simpson, you've got James Skowski. You know what you've got there. And I think we know what we've got in a lot of our backups. I like Kane Patterson as well. I've even been impressed with what I've seen from McGuire, but the fans want more Levante Bentley. Okay, this guy he's a thumper. He goes in there and he destroys people, which is really fun to see. He's kind of like a heat-seeking missile back there. And I think when he was in the game, he made plays. People want to see him on the field. And I think he deserves to be on the field a lot more than he got last year. And it's going to be interesting to see how it works out. Dabo likes to talk about, we've got this, we only recruited one, and Jeremiah Trotter, who's going to be a star, by the way. But I'm pretty confident in saying I think Barrett Carter fits as a linebacker. They might list him as safety, but I think he's playing more linebacker. So, and those guys will both be phenomenal in those roles, in my opinion. I think those are two of the best linebackers we've signed in a long time. So I think it's going to be fun, but I think we got a lot of talent there as well. So I would agree with Dabo in that statement.
Yeah, no, I think Clemson's got a lot of depth. I think this might be much like our wide receiving core, one of the deepest linebacking cores that Clemson's had in a long, long time. And it only gets better that you've got athletes like Kevin Swint, who's cross-training to play, defensive line versus linebacker. Like, you've already got somebody like Trenton Simpson, who's athletic enough to play outside linebacker, but also you can line him up in a three-point stance on the defensive line. So that could cause chaos if you've got two linebackers lined up as defensive linemen. You could really mess with the sets that you do and play into Brent Venables' scheme a lot better than a lot of people would anticipate. I think it's a deep linebacking core. Can't wait to watch it. I think there's a lot more athleticism on the back end this year too, and I can't wait to watch.
Clemson having an unorthodox defensive scheme. Ooh, just gives me chills because I know that that is the go-to for Brent Venables. I can only imagine what he is going to concoct up this season with the talent that he has. Hey, Tiger fans, let us know what you think. The spring practice game is coming up this weekend. If you're watching it before, if you're watching after, sorry if you missed it. But hope you enjoyed the game coming up this weekend, and obviously more Clemson Tigers football content. Hey, if you want more Clemson content in general, make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We put new Clemson athletic content up on the channel every single week. This video is brought to you by Black's Tire Inc. in Westminster, South Carolina. Family owned and operated since 1971. If you need new tires, brakes, alignments, tire repair, or just looking for a friendly professional to help answer your questions, stop by Black's Tire Inc., located 1415 East Main Street, Westminster, South Carolina. Give them a call. The number's on the screen, 864-647-9292. Tell Dale and Preston that the Morgan Thomas Show sent you.